Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelenskiy has called on Western partners to provide $30 billion by the end of 2025 to help the country expand its weapons production and fight Russia. During a meeting with journalists on Tuesday, Zelenskiy highlighted the need to boost arms output, which includes missiles, drones, and other key military equipment. The Ukrainian leader said Kiev must conduct 300 to 500 UAV operations on Russian territory daily and create a reserve of 1,000 drones. That will show the Russians that they will feel the response if our partners help us. This is not an issue of production capacity. It is an issue of funding, he said. We need to fortify our airspace, and that means deploying more drones and expanding our Patriot missile systems. Our skies must be secure if our cities are to remain safe, Zelensky went on saying. Furthermore, he underlined the need for stronger sanctions against Russia, a push for peace talks and allocation of frozen Russian assets to Ukraine. We need this funding, plain and simple. It's not just about military might, it's about ensuring Ukraine's future survival and independence. We cannot afford to wait. We must ramp up production and ensure that we are no longer dependent on foreign supplies for our defense, stated Zelensky. The Ukrainian leader will address G7 countries' leaders over the request for funding. It should be noted that with US shifting its policy over Russia-Ukraine war and reducing aid to Kiev, Ukraine has been increasingly focused on its own resources to fight the war. Russia escalated assaults on Ukraine and launched record number of air raids across the country over the weekend, killing at least 13 civilians. 30 Ukrainians have died and more than 163 others injured as Russia escalated its bombing campaign in the past week.
Ukrainian military expert Dmitry Snegirev answered the question of why Ukraine is launching drone strikes on the territory of the Moscow region. The Russian side itself admits that Ukraine has actually found the Achilles heel of the Russian economy. The point is that regardless of whether the drone hit the final target, the carpet plan is announced, that is, the aviation space is closed. Imagine if the aviation space in the skies above Moscow is completely closed for 3 days. What colossal losses this would cause for the Russian economy. I would like to emphasize once again, regardless of the final result of the UAV attack, this is first and foremost a blow to the Russian economy, given that air transportation on the scale of the occupying country is a rather serious sector of the Russian economy. Secondly, this has enormous economic, political and more importantly informational significance. The military expert said. Dmitry Snegirev also noted another important nuance. The Russians already understand that their air defense system is imperfect. Moreover, it is not capable of withstanding external challenges. The main thing is that the Russian side has become convinced that the Ukrainian defense forces have the ability to scale up strikes on the territory of the Russian Federation, and note that there is a constant expansion of strikes. The carpet plan is being announced not only in Moscow. Today, Pulkovo in St. Petersburg closed the airspace, and at least in 6 other regional centers of the Russian Federation. So, President Vladimir Putin will not be able to sit comfortably in the Kremlin due to Ukrainian drones. Recall recently, dozens of Ukrainian drones targeted industrial sites across Russia. The attacks came in waves. Aviation authorities temporarily halted flights in and out of multiple cities, including Moscow. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said at least 10 drones were downed near the capital. No casualties were reported in the strikes near Moscow or in other regions. In the Republic of Tatarstan, air defenses were reportedly activated near Yelabuga. The town is home to the Alabuga industrial zone, where a major drone supplier for the Russian military is located. The Alabuga industrial zone last came under Ukrainian drone attack in April 2024. In the Ivanovo region, around 800 kilometers from the border, local officials said drones damaged facilities in an unspecified industrial zone early Monday. Some residents claimed the Dmitrievsky chemical plant was hit in the attack, though there was no confirmation from the authorities. Ukrainian National Security and Defense Council spokesman Andriy Kovalenko said the plant produces components for Russian military equipment, including missiles. Residents also reported explosions overnight at the site of NPO Splav, a rocket manufacturer in the Tula region. The Telegram news channel Astra, citing those accounts, said it could not verify whether the facility, which was targeted already twice this month, had been struck again. As reported, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said that Germany, Great Britain, France and the United States have lifted restrictions on the range of weapons supplied to Ukraine. The Kremlin called this decision dangerous because this step allegedly runs counter to Russia's aspirations for a political settlement of the war. Ukrainian military expert Yevgeny Dicky says that there are interesting nuances. The question arises, do we physically have what to implement this kind permission with? That is, if we were simply allowed to use long-range missiles, then this mission, in fact, concerns the very few Shadow and Scalp missiles. Yes, we have them, but firstly, they were not given to us in such a truckload as we needed. Secondly, we actively use them, so it is clear that there could not be many left. That is, if we were talking only about the remains of Storm Shadow and Scalp and their probable use, then this is a so-so story. But if Friedrich Merz's speech is not only about permission, but about the actual announcement of the transfer of Taurus missiles to us, then this is very useful. After all, such permission, plus their 500-kilometer range, is a kind of hello to the GRAU arsenals. Hello, specifically to the enemy's strategic command posts, he said. According to him, in fact, Ukraine has 3 groups of main objects on the territory of Russia that are of great interest to Ukraine. First, these are military warehouses of strategic importance, not tactical level. But just because we, with our own forces, with the help of our own UAVs, took out 4 GRAU arsenals, we almost halved the intensity of enemy artillery fire at the front. That is, the destruction of such objects really works. And this means that this direction must be developed and continued. The second is the blows to the circulatory system of Russia, the oil refining industry. For some reason, we write little about this. But, for example, in the Rostov region of Russia and in some of the southern Ukrainian regions occupied by Russians, gasoline is already available by coupons and with queues. At the same time, strangely enough, these coupons were introduced exactly 2 weeks after we hit the Rostov oil refinery. By the way, this demonstrates Russia's real priorities when it first saves on the civilian population and even the last liter of fuel. That remains will go to the Russian army, but we must really do everything to make this liter really the last one. Finally, the third category of objects that are interesting for us to strike are critically important enterprises of the Russian defense industry. I would not say that I see now a very competent strategy of ours for knocking out such enterprises, but I would call such a strategy a bearing strategy. What is meant? The fact is that during the Second World War, a similar dilemma was already being solved by the Allies, the United States and Britain. They were then deciding which objects in Germany would be bombed by their long-range aviation. He said,